The fake Bruise my stepson made destroyed my marriage. Until the truth came out. I hit the porch with my suitcase before I hit the steps. Evelyn's voice was a siren behind me. High, shredded, the kind of sound you make when something inside you has already decided. Get out, Benjamin. Get out. Porch light burning my shoulders, our dog barking like a traitor, and in the doorway her son Alfie leaning against the jamb with that little smirk like he'd just beaten a video game on expert mode. Just that morning, she'd kissed my temple while I fixed the leaky tap. "You're my calm," she said, hands around a mug. By sundown I was a monster. I stood in the hydrangeas clutching shirts that still smelled like our detergent and said the dumbest thing a man can say when truth has already left the building. "Evie, what is happening?" "You know what you did," she snapped, and the porch light clicked off. The door didn't slam. It sealed. Alfie's voice floated through the wood. "Mom, I told you he'd play innocent." I slept in my truck, head on a bald hoodie, listening to the refrigerator hum through the kitchen window like a lullaby from a house that had evicted me. At 2 a.m., a raccoon climbed the hood and stared at me like I owed him rent. At 4 a.m., the sprinklers came on and baptized my suitcase. By sunrise, I'd made a list on a receipt. Call Mark, my brother. Call solicitor. Call what? Ghostbusters? Pastor? Therapist? Exterminator of teenage smirks? Before the list, there was the beginning. For years earlier, Evelyn was a widow who ran a coffee shop like a ship, sleeves rolled, hair in a quick knot, a patience that made bad days confess to her. I was the regular who knew when the grinder sounded off and who brought her a new gasket the day it died. She told me she'd loved once, and that grief had rewired her. I told her I wouldn't replace Alfie's dad, only add another shoulder to the load. We were careful, then brave, then married. I learned which songs made her cry in the car and how she took her tea when the world hurt. I learned to step gently around the shrine of a good man gone too soon. For 2 quiet years, we were good. Then the comments started, little sugar-coated grenades. "Mom, you look gorgeous today." Alfie would beam, then glance at my belt and add, "Shame some people don't believe in tailoring like Dad did." Or, "Mr. Reed at school lets us use the car for lunch. He trusts me." With a teenager's sigh aimed at my old-fashioned no. I shrugged off the digs. 17 is a weather system. You wait it out. The car thing cracked the sky. He pitched a $40,000 starter car like he was applying for a grant. We offered to match his savings for something safe and sensible. He rolled his eyes so hard you could hear them. That night, I found the leather brochure tucked under Evelyn's pillow like a love letter from a dealership. Then came the tiny traps. My work gloves accidentally stuffed into the whites so they bled rust. A forgotten pizza box slid under the passenger seat of my truck and found by Evelyn after Alfie mentioned he'd seen me chatting up someone at the petrol station. It was Mrs. Kravitz, 63, and her labradoodle Kevin. I started catching him watching me, not curious, calculating. He'd whisper to Evelyn in the kitchen and stop when I entered. "He's strict, Mom," he'd murmur just loud enough. "He talks to me like I'm staff." The last normal Tuesday, I came home to a vase of peonies and a roast that smelled like Sundays. Evelyn laughed at some dumb story about my foreman and kissed me with the kind of kiss that means there's a later. The very next day, the porch, the suitcase, Alfie's smirk. No middle, just a trapdoor. On the curb, I called through the door one more time. "Evie, please. Look me in the eye and tell me what I did." Silence. Then the lock clicked. The door opened a crack. Her face was pale, righteous. "You laid a hand on my son," she said. "You grabbed him. I saw the bruise." I swear the night tilted. "What bruise?" She flinched like it hurt to remember. "Leave. Now." Behind her, Alfie's sleeve rode up just enough to show a shadow on his forearm. He caught me looking and smiled, small, private, victorious. The door sealed again. The porch light died, and I finally understood. This wasn't a storm. It was a map. Somewhere, weeks back, a line had been drawn in pencil, and I'd crossed it without ever seeing it. I turned the key in the truck, hands shaking. On the wet receipt in my lap, I added a new line above the others. Find the truth. The first night away, I stayed at my brother Mark's spare room, the one that smells like paint and bachelorhood. He didn't ask questions until morning, just handed me a beer and a blanket like I'd shown up from a storm, which I had, though not the weather kind. By sunrise, he finally said, All right, Benny. What the hell happened? I told him everything. The yelling, the bruise, the look on Alfie's smug teenage face. Mark shook his head, eyes dark. You always said that kid had a politician's grin. Now he's running his first campaign. I wanted to defend him. He's just a kid. He lost his dad young. Grief does weird things. But the words wouldn't stick. Because deep down, even then, something about that bruise didn't sit right. Evelyn said she'd seen it, but I hadn't even touched the boy that day. Hell, I couldn't remember the last time I'd even been close enough to accidentally bump him. Still, guilt crept in like damp. What if I'd been harsher than I thought? Maybe the way I'd told him no sounded colder than it felt in my head. Maybe. Mark broke my spiral with a clap on the shoulder. Don't you dare start apologizing for something you didn't do. I've seen that look before, remember? When Sarah left me, I blamed myself for her affair. You can't logic your way through someone else's lie. He was right, but I wasn't ready to call it a lie yet. Not then. That afternoon, I tried calling Evelyn. Straight to voicemail. I texted, please talk to me. We can fix this. 3 dots appeared, then vanished. I sent another. I love you. Delivered. Never read. I drove to the house, parked across the street like some creep in a soap opera. The curtains were drawn, but through a slit I saw movement. Evelyn pacing with her phone, Alfie sitting at the kitchen island, arms crossed, expression flat. She stopped, turned toward him, said something. He shrugged. Then he smiled. That smile. I left before she saw me. 2 days later, I got an email from my foreman. Sorry to hear what happened, man. Take the week off if you need it. The rumor had already leaked. Someone, probably Alfie or one of Evelyn's friends, had started whispering that I'd been kicked out for losing my temper. The humiliation burned worse than the heartbreak. By Friday, Mark convinced me to speak with a lawyer, his friend Nadia. She was short, sharp, and didn't waste words. After hearing my story, she leaned back and said, if she's accusing you of assault, we need to get ahead of it. Any police involvement yet? No. She just threw me out. That's something. But you can't wait until it turns into paperwork. She scribbled notes. Hire a private investigator. Someone who can check financials, communications, cameras, whatever. Teenagers lie. It's not rare, but you'll need proof. Truth doesn't stand a chance without evidence. I laughed bitterly. So I have to prove I didn't do something? That's exactly right. That night, as if scripted by fate, I got a message from Evelyn. It wasn't the apology or conversation I'd hoped for. Evelyn, don't contact me or Alfie for now. I need time to think. You've done enough damage. I stared at those words until my phone locked itself. The next morning, Mark came into the kitchen waving his tablet. You're not gonna like this. He showed me a post on Facebook, Evelyn's friends consoling her. Stay strong, Evie, one wrote. You and Alfie deserve peace. Another, he'll get what's coming. She's telling people you hit the kid, Mark said flatly. I felt the world tilt again. She wouldn't. She would if she believes him. I left the house and drove for hours with no destination, just road, gas stations, and my own disbelief. I ended up at the coffee shop where I first met her. Same chipped counter, same cinnamon smell. Except now, I wasn't the man who made her laugh. I was the villain in her story. The barista, someone new, looked at me oddly. Aren't you Evelyn's husband? I nodded. She frowned. She said you're not together anymore. The words hit like a slap. When I got back to Mark's, I made one decision. If the truth was buried, I'd dig. I called Nadia and said, get me that investigator. I don't care what it costs. The next day, a man named Sam called me. Ex-cop, polite voice, the kind that sounds like it's seen too much. Mr. Harlow, he said, if there's dirt to find, I'll find it. I didn't know it then, but Sam would become the first crack of light through that long, suffocating tunnel. Because while I was drowning in guilt, someone else, someone much younger, was getting careless. And careless, as I'd soon learn, leaves fingerprints. Sam didn't waste time. 2 days after I hired him, he called me from his car, voice humming with caffeine and suspicion. Your stepson's an interesting kid, he said. Got a social media trail like a peacock, flashy, loud, and full of holes. I almost laughed. You found something already? Not proof yet, but patterns. He's been tagging locations he shouldn't have been able to afford. Designer shoes, weekend trips, concert tickets. I pulled a few public Venmo payments too. He's moving money, and not small amounts. Money from where? I asked. That's the part we'll find out. For the first time since the night Evelyn threw me out, I felt something other than confusion. I felt hope. That evening, I drafted a message to Evelyn. Evie, please. I know you're angry, but you're being lied to. I didn't hurt Alfie. Let me show you what I've found. No reply. Just silence. But that silence broke when Sam called again a few days later, this time sounding almost amused. Benjamin, you ever check your joint accounts? No. She changed the passwords when she kicked me out. Yeah. Well, someone's been withdrawing cash in regular chunks. Always just under the daily limit. Over $6,000 in the last 2 months. Any idea why? I gripped the phone tighter. That's not Evelyn. She tracks every penny. She once scolded me for buying extra dishwasher tablets. Then my guess, Sam said, is it's Alfie. It made sense in a sick way. The kid had been acting entitled for months. Designer shoes, new gaming PC, talking about moving to London for freedom. I remembered overhearing him tell a friend once, Mum doesn't need a babysitter. Once she's done playing house with Ben, we're out of here. At the time, I'd brushed it off as teenage bravado. Now, it sounded like a manifesto. Sam suggested we dig deeper, but legally. I'll track the withdrawals. You get a lawyer to request the financial records. She's still your spouse, so you're entitled to transparency. So we did. Nadia sent the formal request. Evelyn refused at first, but eventually relented through gritted teeth. Fine, she texted. If it helps you move on faster. When the documents came, I felt my stomach drop. The withdrawals matched Sam's timeline exactly. Same ATMs, same pattern. But what gutted me most was the last transaction. A $2,000 charge at a local body shop, the same week Alfie had begged for that $40,000 car. I drove straight to that shop, pretending to be a client. The owner, a burly guy named Vince, recognized Alfie's photo instantly. Yeah, I know him. Kid wanted to repaint a used Audi. Paid cash. Showed up twice with his buddies. Said it was a surprise for his mom. A used Audi. Bought with stolen money. I thanked Vince and walked out shaking. That night, I sat in my truck, staring at Evelyn's number on my screen. I wanted to send her everything, to shake her through the phone, to scream, look at the truth. But something in me hesitated. If she'd truly believed me capable of hurting her son, then facts alone wouldn't save us. I called Sam instead. We need something undeniable. Something she can't rationalize. Understood, he said. And Benjamin, you might want to sit down for this next bit. He sent me a photo, a grainy screenshot from an Instagram story one of Alfie's friends had posted. In it, Alfie and 2 other boys were in a bedroom, laughing, holding up stacks of cash and typing on their phones. The caption, Plan A in motion. Can't wait to be out of here. The date on the post? One day before Evelyn threw me out. Sam chuckled darkly. Looks like your stepson's not just lying. He's bragging about it. My pulse thundered in my ears. Give me everything, I said. Every message, every photo, every account he's got. The next morning, Sam delivered a new bombshell. Screenshots of Alfie messaging a friend. Gonna make it look like he hit me. Mum will flip. Once he's out, she'll sell the house. We'll move to London, split the profit. Easy. My legs gave out. I dropped into the chair and laughed, half crazed. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't the villain. But that triumph came with an ache. Evelyn, the woman I'd loved and built a life with, had looked at her son's word and believed it over mine. She hadn't even asked for proof. Still, Sam's last call of the day brought a flicker of light. Benjamin, I can get video evidence, he said. The kid's not smart. He recorded himself doing something stupid a few weeks back. Roughhousing, joking, even punching his own arm. I think that's your Bruise. I stared at the darkening sky, heart pounding. Find it, I whispered. When he did, I knew exactly how this story would end. Not in shouting, not in tears. In truth, cold, sharp, undeniable truth. And maybe, just maybe, a little justice. It was a Tuesday when Sam called again, voice low and triumphant. Benjamin, I've got it. You might want to sit down for this. I was already sitting, coffee untouched, heart pacing like it knew the finish line was near. You found the video? Better. A whole sequence. Kid recorded it himself on his phone, probably for his friends. He's in his room, talking about how acting skills will pay off. Then, he literally bruises himself. Uses a weight plate and presses it against his arm. Says, and I quote, Mum's gonna freak when she sees this. Goodbye, Ben. My throat went dry. You're serious? I don't joke when I'm billing by the hour, Sam said. I've already pulled the metadata. Timestamps the night before she threw you out. For a second, everything inside me went quiet. No anger, no shock. Just this hollow ache that said, you were right, and it still hurts. Send it, I said. He did. And when I watched it, I almost couldn't breathe. There he was, Alfie, grinning into the mirror, flexing his arm, then pressing the metal weight until the skin bloomed purple. He winced, laughed, and said, perfect. He'll never come back after this. That was the moment the confusion broke. The heartbreak was still there, sure, but now it had company. Clarity. I called Nadia, my lawyer, immediately. We have proof, I told her. Enough to end this. She agreed, but urged me to play it smart. You can't just show up waving the video. People dig in when they're embarrassed. You need to let her see the truth in a way she can't deny. So, we came up with a plan. I'd invite Evelyn to meet me in public, a calm, neutral setting. The same coffee shop where we'd first met. She'd expect an apology. Instead, she'd get the truth. But before that could happen, something unexpected did. That night, while I was sorting through copies of the bank statement Sam had gathered, my phone rang. It was Evelyn. I stared at the screen for a full 10 seconds before answering. Evie, I breathed. Her voice was tired. Not angry, just hollow. Ben, I shouldn't be calling, but I need to know. Why won't you just admit it? I saw the bruise. You saw what he wanted you to see, I said gently. Please, meet me tomorrow morning. Just 1 hour. If you still think I'm lying after that, I'll disappear for good. She hesitated. You're not going to yell at me? Not even close, I said. She agreed. And I swear, for the first time in weeks, I slept through the night. The next morning, I got there early, sat in our old booth by the window. The place smelled like cinnamon and espresso, exactly like the day we first met. My heart was a war drum. When she walked in, she looked smaller somehow, hair in a loose bun, eyes swollen from too many tears. She didn't sit right away. Ben, what is this about? I slid the folder across the table. It's about the truth. She frowned, opened it, and started leafing through the pages. Bank statements, Venmo screenshots, the text threads Sam had recovered. Then she reached the USB drive I'd tucked into the back. What's this? She asked. Watch it. She plugged it into her phone with the little adapter I'd brought. And then the sound of her son's laughter filled the coffee shop. Her hand flew to her mouth. Goodbye, Ben, Alfie's voice said from the video, right before the screen went dark. Evelyn dropped the phone like it had burned her. Oh my God, she whispered. He did this. I nodded. My throat was tight. I told you I never laid a hand on him. She looked up at me then, and I could see every ounce of denial draining from her. Ben, what have I done? Before I could answer, the door to the cafe burst open. Alfie stood there, panting, face red. Mom, don't listen to him. He's lying. He faked all of it. Evelyn turned toward him slowly, voice trembling. Alfie, I saw the video. The boy's bravado faltered. That's not what it looks like. Then what is it exactly? She snapped, louder now, tears cutting lines down her cheeks. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you framed an innocent man. The man who took care of you, who never once raised his voice to you. And you. Mom, stop, Alfie shouted, slamming his palm on the table. Every head in the cafe turned. But then his anger slipped. His lip quivered. I just wanted out, he muttered. You don't get it, Mom. You were going to stay here forever with him. I wanted to move to London, live a real life. You never listened to me. So you lied? She demanded. He looked away. It was supposed to be simple. Just get him out, sell the house, start over. Evelyn sat back, shaking her head like she couldn't recognize her own child. When he finally stormed out, leaving the cafe doors swinging behind him, she looked at me again, eyes full of horror. I don't know how to fix this, she whispered. You can start, I said quietly, by forgiving yourself. And by letting me go. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel broken. I felt free. But I didn't know yet that the story wasn't quite done. Because consequences have long shadows, and some hearts, even shattered ones, can still find light again. Evelyn didn't cry right away. She just sat there, trembling, staring down at the folder like it was radioactive. Around us, the cafe had gone silent, the barista pretending to clean the counter while listening in. It was almost cruel. The way truth doesn't make a sound when it lands, just changes the air. Finally, She whispered, "He's my son. My baby. How could he do this?" I wanted to say, "Because you raised him alone after losing everything, and he learned how to weaponize your love." But I didn't. I just said, softly, "He's hurting." But what he did was more than a mistake. She nodded, eyes unfocused. "He told me you'd been cruel to him. That you called him names when I wasn't home. That you—" She stopped herself, face crumpling. And I believed him. God help me, I didn't even question it. I reached for my coffee, hands shaking. "You were grieving, Evie. Still are, I think. He knew how to reach that part of you." She covered her face. "I destroyed our marriage for a lie. I let her cry then. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel the need to fix it. Some things aren't for fixing. They're for surviving." After a while, she wiped her eyes. "I'm going to make this right. He's going to tell the truth, to everyone. The neighbors, the police, your job. All of them." "Evelyn." "No," she said firmly. "He's going to face what he did." And for once, I saw the woman I'd fallen in love with again. Not the scared mother, not the widow clinging to a ghost, but the fighter beneath all of it. I left the cafe that morning without looking back. For weeks, I heard nothing. I imagined she and Alfie were having the kind of arguments that shake walls. I tried not to picture it, but I couldn't help wondering if he'd apologize, or if he'd double down the way manipulators often do when caught. Then, one evening, she called. "Ben," she said quietly, "he confessed everything. To me, to the police. He's agreed to therapy, restitution for the stolen money. He's not the same right now. I think the guilt is hitting him harder than any punishment could." There was a long silence. "I don't expect you to forgive me," she added. "But I needed you to know." I didn't know what to say, so I just told the truth. I already did. It's the only way I can move on. She exhaled shakily. "You really were the good one, weren't you?" "I'm just the one who didn't give up," I said. "That's all." After we hung up, I poured myself a glass of whiskey and stood by the window. The street was quiet. My house felt like mine again. No shadows, no accusations hanging in the air. Just peace. A week later, a letter arrived. From Evelyn. Handwritten. "Ben, I've sold the house. Alfie and I are moving into a small flat near the edge of town. It's not much, but it's honest. He's working part-time now, saving for his own place. I think he's finally realizing what he cost us. You don't owe me forgiveness, but I wanted you to know that I'll never stop trying to be the kind of woman you once saw in me. Thank you for loving me when I didn't even trust myself. Evelyn." I sat there for a long time after reading it. Then I smiled. Not the bitter kind, but a quiet, tired one that comes when the storm finally moves off and you realize you're still standing. A few months later, I ran into her again, at a farmer's market of all places. She was buying sunflowers. Alfie wasn't with her. She smiled when she saw me, a little unsure but sincere. "Hi, Ben." "Hi, Evie." We talked for a few minutes. The weather, work, small talk. It wasn't awkward, just gentle. She looked lighter, like someone who'd stopped carrying the weight of other people's lies. When we parted, she said, "I hope you're happy." And I realized I was. I'd learned something through all of it, something harsh but necessary. Love can survive pain, but not deception. And trust is not a feeling. It's a practice. As I drove home, windows down, sun spilling over the dashboard, I realized the story had finally ended. Not with revenge, not with reconciliation, but with peace. And for a man who'd once been thrown out into the dark by the people he loved most, peace was more than enough. It had been nearly 8 months since that morning in the cafe. Life had finally quieted into something almost unrecognizable, peaceful. I'd thrown myself into work, rebuilt my routine, and even started volunteering at a local youth carpentry program. It felt good, helping kids build something tangible, something that couldn't be twisted or lied about. One gray Saturday, while I was sanding a table with one of the students, I heard the door open behind me. The coordinator called out, "Ben, you've got a visitor." I turned around and nearly dropped the sandpaper. It was Alfie. He looked nothing like the swaggering teenager I remembered. His hair was shorter, his face thinner, eyes haunted. He wore a plain hoodie and scuffed sneakers, hands shoved deep in his pockets like he was afraid they might betray him again. "Hey," he said quietly. The other kids looked curious, but I nodded to the coordinator. "Give us a minute, yeah?" When we were alone, I just said, "You've got some nerve showing up here." He nodded. "I know. I deserve that." I waited. He swallowed hard. Mom told me you're teaching here. I've been trying to find a way to say I'm sorry, but I didn't think you'd ever want to see me again. You were right, I said flatly. I didn't. He winced, but didn't move. I don't expect forgiveness. I just need to tell you something. I crossed my arms, skeptical. Go ahead. He took a deep breath. When you left, Mom fell apart. I thought if I told the truth, it would fix things. But it didn't. It made it worse. I wrecked her life. I wrecked mine. I can't sleep most nights because I still hear her crying. His voice cracked then. I see her face when she watched that video. I've never felt smaller in my life. I didn't speak. Let him sit in it. He kept going, desperate now. I've been working at a garage, saving up to pay back what I stole. Mom says you won't take it, but I'm still gonna try. I owe you more than money. I studied him for a long time. There was no smirk this time, no arrogance, just a kid who'd finally met his own guilt and didn't know how to live with it. Why come to me? I asked. Because, he hesitated, eyes glassy. You were the only real father I ever had. And I destroyed that. I just needed you to know I'm trying to be better. That hit harder than I wanted it to. I walked over to the workbench, picked up a small wooden plaque one of the kids had made. It said, measure twice, cut once. I handed it to him. Keep that, I said. Remind yourself that every word, every choice, is a cut. You can't uncut wood, Alfie. He nodded, clutching it like a lifeline. Does that mean you forgive me? I sighed. Forgiveness isn't a door you walk through once. It's a hallway. You can start walking, but it takes time. Tears welled up in his eyes, and for the first time, I didn't see the manipulator. I saw a scared, guilty teenager who'd made an unforgivable mistake and was somehow still trying to make it right. Before he left, he said, Mom's doing better. She started painting again. She talks about you sometimes. I smiled faintly. Tell her I'm glad. As he walked away, the light from the open door framed him for just a moment. A silhouette of a boy who'd burned down his world and was finally learning how to rebuild it. That night, I got a text from Evelyn. He came to see you, didn't he? Thank you for not turning him away. I stared at the screen for a long time before replying. Everyone deserves a second chance, Evie. Even him. She sent back a heart emoji. Just one. Small. Simple. Honest. I smiled. Not because I wanted her back, but because I finally knew the story wasn't ending in bitterness. It was changing. Healing. Sometimes redemption doesn't look like romance rekindled or revenge served cold. Sometimes, it's just a young man showing up in a dusty workshop, asking for a chance to do one right thing. And sometimes, that's enough. It happened on one of those rare golden afternoons in late spring, the kind that feels like the world is taking a deep breath. I was at the town fair, helping set up the carpentry booth for the youth program. Kids were hammering away at birdhouses, sawdust floating like confetti in the sunlight. I was laughing with one of the volunteers when I heard a voice behind me. Soft. Familiar. Ben. I turned, and there she was. Evelyn. She looked different, but in the best way. Her hair had grown longer, sun-kissed, and she wore a pale blue dress that made her eyes look almost like they used to. Calm, steady, full of that quiet warmth I'd fallen for. She was holding a canvas tote bag, and next to her stood Alfie, taller now, his posture careful, his expression uncertain but hopeful. For a heartbeat, I just stared. Then I smiled. Evie. She smiled back, hesitant, shy, like we were meeting for the first time all over again. I didn't know you'd be here. Alfie wanted to come. He's been volunteering with the community garden. The boy nodded, eyes darting nervously. Hi, Ben. Hey, kid, I said, voice soft. There was an awkward pause, the kind that holds 1,000 unsaid things. Then Evelyn took a small step closer. We've been doing better, she said quietly. He's working, saving money, going to therapy every week. I've been painting again, selling a few pieces at the market. It's been peaceful. I nodded, heart full but steady. You both look good. Happy. She hesitated, then said, You do too. Before I could reply, one of the younger boys at the booth called out, Mr. Ben, can you check my nails? I laughed, excused myself, and showed the kid how to fix his angle. When I turned back, Evelyn was watching me, the way she used to, like she was seeing something she hadn't noticed in years. When the booth closed, she and Alfie were still there, waiting. You want to walk? She asked. We strolled through the fair, music playing, kids running past with cotton candy, the scent of fried dough thick in the air. It felt easy, like time had softened all the jagged edges. "I've thought about that day," she said finally, voice trembling. "The cafe. The way you looked at me when I realized the truth. I don't think I'll ever forgive myself for not believing you." I stopped walking and turned to her. "Evelyn, I forgave you a long time ago." Her eyes filled with tears. "Why?" "Because I loved you," I said simply. "And love doesn't vanish just because it hurts. It just waits until it's safe to come back." She reached out then, tentative, trembling, and took my hand. The touch was warm, familiar, right? Alfie was a few steps ahead, pretending to examine a food stall, but I saw the relief on his face. Later, the three of us sat on a bench overlooking the river. The sun was dipping low, painting the water gold. Alfie cleared his throat and said, "Ben, I don't know if I'll ever deserve your forgiveness, but I'm going to keep trying to earn it." I smiled at him. "You already started, Alfie. Just keep walking the path." Evelyn leaned against my shoulder, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel like an outsider in their world. We weren't the broken family we used to be. We were something new, patched together, scarred maybe, but real. As the fair lights flickered on, she whispered, "Do you think we could try again? Not rush it. Just see where life takes us." I turned to her, brushed a strand of hair from her face, and smiled. "I'd like that very much." And just like that, the past didn't matter anymore. The lies, the pain, the nights I slept in my truck, all of it faded into something small against the warmth of the moment. Months later, we did try again. Slowly, gently. Alfie started college nearby, came home for dinners, and we laughed like old friends. Evelyn and I rebuilt everything from the ground up. No ghosts this time, no secrets. Just honesty and forgiveness. One evening, as the three of us sat around the dinner table, the smell of her roasted chicken filling the house, Alfie teasing me about my terrible jokes, I realized we weren't trying to recreate what we'd lost. We were building something better. Evelyn caught my hand under the table and smiled that same soft smile from years ago. "Home," she said quietly. And for the first time in a long, long time, it truly was. The end.